I want to get a sense before we get started of who I have in the audience today. So clap, because I can't see you. So clap if you run a newsletter, either for yourself or a business. Okay, okay.
Great.
And how many of you are familiar with Mindstream? Clap. Right. Okay, great. So you're in the right place, whether you know them or you don't. Today we're going to be talking all about newsletters and AI. Very exciting. We're going to be talking about Matt and Adam's Mindstream, the launch of it. They're going to be sharing some newsletter best practices with us. Matt and Adam, how are you doing?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Excited to be here.
Great to be here.
Okay, so for people who don't know what Mindstream is, give us a quick rundown.
Yeah, so Mindstream is an AI newsletter. That doesn't mean it's written by AI. It means we curate what you need to know about AI. It's a business myself and Adam started about 18 months ago.
Very recent.
The reason we started was because we found the AI media space was so kind of saturated, but there was nothing that stood out. We wanted to create the kind of ultimate resource where everyone can come and learn about AI.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and literally 7 days a week, 3 to 5 minutes, one email in your inbox.
We'll get to that. I want to hear about the 7 days a week because that's a doozy. I'm curious, what was your exposure to AI before the boom? Because I think for a lot of us, it happened when ChatGPT launched. It was like all of a sudden, we're hearing about AI. It's on TV. Your friends are talking about it at dinner. So what was your exposure to it before the boom? Did it happen around that time, or was it AI a topic that you were interested in before?
Yeah, so I was working in sales jobs previously, and when ChatGPT came out, I spent a lot of time on LinkedIn, sort of connecting with clients on there, and I would see so much like chatter on LinkedIn about AI. Joined a few of the other newsletters that were already out there, and just trying to sort of understand how I can use it to actually make a difference for me, my role, my job, my clients. And I'm sure, as most of you have found, it's pretty overwhelming. There's so much information out there, a lot of hype, and quite often a lot of these like tools that are popping up don't really do what they say on the tin. You kind of have to still have a good knowledge of AI to really take that tool and make a difference with it. So that was what I struggled with, and one of the reasons that we wanted to start Mindstream.
Yeah. What about you, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I think like a lot of people here, when ChatGPT came out, I started using it and my mind was instantly blown.
Yeah.
The potential was just crazy. Myself and Adam kind of sat down and said, this is going to be huge. What can we do in this space? We wanted to start a business together. Adam was obsessed with the newsletter business. He kind of spread that obsession onto me. I have a background in writing. I'm a copywriter by trade. Adam's a salesman, so we kind of merged our skills together. And
that's actually a match made in heaven, marketing and sales
yeah,
alignment. You have that right there.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
So what would you say sets Mindstream apart from other newsletters? Because you kind of joined the game a little bit later, right? You launched in June 2023. There had already been so many newsletters out there, the Neuron, Bins Bytes. I mean, I subscribe to probably 15 newsletters at this point. So I feel like the space got crowded really, really fast. You mentioned it being saturated. So what do you think sets Mindstream apart from other AI newsletters?
Yeah, so I think the problem with the newsletter space, these newsletters that really are trying to be destination newsletters, not sort of like a marketing newsletter for a company, but these destination newsletters, they all saw what, happened with the Hustle and Morning Brew with their acquisitions, and then more recently Milk Road, and everybody kind of was trying to emulate these successes. Also with the launch of Beehive, it's the ESP we use, they made it like so easy to create a newsletter with like a really dynamic editor, loads of growth tools, and so many people just flooded to this space to try and make a quick buck. And when we started Mindstream, we looked at the competition, and there was already thousands of newsletters trying to write about AI. But a lot of them are doing the same thing, just basically curating information, what's going on, and not really adding any editorial insight, any opinions, sort of actionable takeaways. People were probably just using AI to aggregate the news, do some basic copywriting, and then just churn it out.
Yeah, I mean, we knew it was a crowded space. When the day we decided to start it, we kind of weighed it up. We said, do we do this? There's already other newsletters in the space. We thought where we can compete is on quality and editorial. We didn't feel like there was a good resource for like a good daily read, like an email you want to open every day. And you said what sets us apart. Again, it's the 7 days a week thing. So yeah, we started in June 23, and Mindstream has gone out every single day since then. So that's
no days off?
No,
Not
no days
one.
off. It's over 500 days in a row.
Even
So,
on holidays?
Even on
yes.
holidays.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, if anyone needs a holiday, it's me. I'm there editing it every morning, including this morning. Sat in my hotel room, making sure the Mindstream's good to go, and I'll be doing the same later tonight to make sure it's out tomorrow as well.
And that's the thing, there's always something happening in AI every single day. Just when you think it's going to slow down, OpenAI has a new update. Something happened. Google launches something new. So there's always something happening to cover. So it's good in a sense. You always have something to add.
Yeah, like 500 days. We've never struggled to write an edition. There's
Wow.
just, we do 2 articles a day in our newsletter, and we've never struggled to fill that space, which I think speaks to kind of how much noise there is in AI and the need to cut through it all.
Yeah, for sure. Like that, the fact that there's so much happening in AI and there's so much news is a great thing for us because it kind of enables us to create this product. But it's also part of the reason that we did create this product. When all of this stuff is happening, how do you go and find the information that you need? And we're trying to essentially be like, almost like your friend who's like really knowledgeable about AI, who's just sending you the stuff that matters and sort of ignoring all of the other stuff.
So you mentioned editorial quality being like one of your competitive advantages. So do you think that's the main thing that it takes to build a great newsletter? And if not, what are some of those other things? Because you're not just competing against other newsletters. You're competing against every other email that they're getting. You're competing against YouTube and podcasts and just so many other content mediums that are fighting for your attention. So what do you think it takes to build like a really successful newsletter?
Yeah, it's a very important question. Like you said, we're not competing with other emails. We're not competing with your email from Adidas saying, "Oh, some shoes are on sale."
Yeah.
We're trying to get attention from people who are scrolling on Instagram, YouTube. We're a destination, so we want people to come and read it every day.
Yeah, and with that, you can't fake it. If you want to have someone's attention and you want to have somebody's trust, you've got to give them like so much good quality content. One of the things that we balanced over the last 18 months of growing it is monetizing the newsletter we've done through sponsorships, but we've always ensured that we have like such a small percentage of advertisement compared to high quality content. So if you come and read Mindstream, you take away something that might impact your day, it might impact the way you work, maybe it's something that you can go and have a conversation with your boss about that makes you look cool and interesting, then you're going to come back tomorrow to come and get more of that. And that's really difficult because we don't need to just do it once, we need to do it every day. If our quality drops, our readers are going to be the first to notice and we'll lose them straight away.
And we'll get to that in a second. Right now, I kind of want to talk about your path to growing to 150,000 subscribers in a year, which if anybody's running, I know there's a lot of people in the audience who run a newsletter. That's very hard to do in such a short amount of time. So what are some key strategies that helped you get there?
Yeah, so when we started, me and Matt were both working other jobs, and our first goal was like, Matt, can you go and write this thing every day, and can you build up that habit? And for me, I was thinking, how can I go out and get some audience? So first off, we did things that really didn't scale. It was like real sort of hustling things. Like literally first off, it was like texting everybody in my contacts book, can you join the newsletter? Can you check out this thing we're doing?
You have to. You have to leverage your network, yeah.
Yeah, and that got us up to maybe like 50 to 100 subscribers. And then I started posting content on LinkedIn. It was a platform that I was quite familiar with because I used it for sales outbound. And also, I feel like when you're a salesperson, scrolling through LinkedIn is like an acceptable form of procrastination. So I used to follow a few LinkedIn creators on there. And the day Matt started writing the newsletter, I started posting every day on LinkedIn. And then following other AI creators and just reaching out to like hundreds of people every day saying, please, 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 subscribe to our newsletter. It's going to be worth it. And that got us up to like, 1,000 subscribers through those things. And at that point, we started to earn like little bits of revenue so we could start experimenting with different paid media types. I'm sure many of you are aware that co-reg is very important with newsletter growth. If you don't know what that is, when you subscribe to a newsletter, you'll get a pop-up saying, we recommend you join these other newsletters. So we connected with a few other newsletter operators at the same sort of size and got that co-reg running, which gave us a little bit of boost. And then eventually, when we were able to get some more revenue and we secured some investment early on, we started using paid co-reg. So with our ESP Beehive, with other softwares like Sparkloop, they have sort of systems where you can pay per subscriber that other newsletters send to you. So that really got us some momentum going. able to get the list to like 10 to 15,000. And at this point, we were able to get kind of little bits of revenue in from sponsorships. And the main thing that really took us to that next level is we started looking into acquisition. So even though we were a small newsletter, there are a lot of newsletters out there who had been able to get a load of subscribers from somewhere, but they didn't really have the operations down. And there was one newsletter called AutoGPT, which was a big newsletter with about 100,000 subscribers. And we managed to negotiate a partnership where Matitz, the founder of AutoGPT, joined us over at Mindstream, and we kind of acquired his newsletter. And at that point, you know, when we had like north of 100,000 subscribers, we were able to generate some real revenue.
Wow.
Work with a lot of big advertisers. It's actually when we started working with HubSpot, they came and started advertising with us. And then it was about experimenting with different paid growth channels. Meta was a big one for us. Also, we still managed to get quite a few subscribers with organic search, even though that's suffering a lot at the moment. So like basically various things. We were experimenting with everything. We had a lot of failures with growth that didn't work, and just sort of testing until we found
Talk to me
something.
about some of those failures. What are some strategies that you used that really didn't work out?
Yeah, do you want me to go on there?
Go on.
Yeah, so one thing we tried, which we still think is a genius idea, even though it's been proven time and time again to us that it's not, was we wanted to use outbound to try and generate subscribers, whereas, you know, sales outbound, typically you're trying to sell a product or a service. We thought, well, if we're just offering a free newsletter, people are, you know, going to come and bite our hand off, like, yeah, they'll subscribe. So we built this whole system where we would be emailing thousands of people a day, trying to get them into the newsletter, and then how it fell down.
Yeah, so at first we were asking people to like reply if they wanted to be subscribed, and not many people were replying. So we use this feature that Beehive offers. It's called a magic link. So you can put this link into other ESPs. We were using Instantly to do this outbound. So we put this magic link, and basically when someone clicks, they're automatically subscribed. We thought this was a great idea. But then with people's emails inbox, like checking these links for spam and stuff like that, we were like subscribing thousands of people to the newsletter, like totally without their consent.
Oh my God.
Yeah, really, really damaged our deliverability. So we switched that off pretty quickly and unsubscribed those people. But yeah, when you're kind of tinkering and trying to find things out, it's important to make sure you get it right.
There's going to be a situation where you do something, you're like, oh no, we need to shut that down immediately.
Yeah. And like straight away, the subscribers are flooding in. We're like, great, we've cracked it.
Yeah.
And all of these
High-fiving
subscribers.
each other, like we finally did it.
Yeah.
That is so funny. I'd love to be a fly on the wall to see that moment when you realize and your face just kind of drops, like, oh no, what have we done?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so you acquired AutoGPT, you have a ton of subscribers now, and it's one thing to launch a newsletter that's already a feat in its own, but it's another to grow and maintain one. So I'm really curious, what are some not so exciting, not so sexy parts and like best practices of running a successful newsletter that we don't really hear about?
Yeah, it's a big job, especially, you know, we're doing the 7 days a week thing. Deliverability, it's a boring word. It's so critical, and what we mean by that is getting the email to land in the kind of primary inbox. There's so many little things you can do that might accidentally trigger a spam filter. You know, Gmail is like the biggest email address, so if you tick Google off, you'll land in everyone's spam emails for Google. So it's kind of constantly being aware and alert of your content. We do like daily spam checks. Sometimes just 1 or 2 words of copy can like be the difference between the primary inbox and the spam inbox.
Have you noticed certain words, like can you share any that, if any come to mind, certain words that you've now have removed from your emails because of that?
Yeah, it's usually salesy stuff, so anything like early access or today or try now.
Also just financial stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like sometimes we've done articles
mentions
reporting.
of money, that can trigger it.
Yeah, we're reporting on someone who's just raised some funds, and you know, we say we've raised $100 million. It's like, you're going in the spam inbox, you know, which is quite difficult.
Yeah, and another critical thing about running a newsletter is your kind of open rate. That's another flag. So if people aren't opening that newsletter, Google gets a signal and says like, oh, this is spam or this is junk. So you need to kind of actively remove people that aren't reading. And that's kind of the real challenge here, because you're trying to grow, but you're also cutting off people who aren't reading. So like, if you can imagine like a YouTuber who's like deleting their subscribers who aren't watching their videos, like that would be insane. But like that's what we have to do to keep the newsletter going.
That's what I was going to ask about, like keeping your engagement high, and how are you retaining subscribers and still trying to grow?
Yeah.
How do you deal with churn?
Yeah, it's a big problem. And I remember one time we were out in Barcelona in February, spending some time with Matitz from AutoGPT, who we just acquired, and we were sort of building this like master spreadsheet of all our projections for the next few years, and we started putting our churn numbers in, and it just killed the whole spreadsheet. There was a moment we sat there and said, this whole business doesn't work, and then we really spent some time trying to optimize it. Little things you can do is like sunlight campaigns. So once someone's unsubscribed, you start automatically emailing them. No, not when someone's unsubscribed. When someone's unsubscribed, you can't email them.
Yeah.
But once you've removed them from your list because they're not inactive, we try and like rewarm them through different techniques. Something Matt spends a lot of time on, like A/B testing. But yeah, I mean, we talk about having 150,000 subscribers now. That's the amount of active subscribers we have. The total amount of subscribers we've got over time is like, I think it's 350 now.
Wow.
So that shows the amount of subscribers we've had to kind of take off the list to ensure we have that high quality engaged list that is interesting for potential advertisers.
Okay, and what do you know about your audience and the content that gets them to unsubscribe? Were there any kind of key findings that make you say, we're kind of going to steer away from this content because maybe it doesn't really resonate well with them?
There's one guy that upsets a lot of people, isn't there, Matt?
Yeah, Elon Musk, whenever we mention him, we get feedback either way saying, how dare you talk about him, or like, why are you talking about him?
Wow.
And I think it's important to be apolitical in something like this. We're just talking about AI, we don't care about politics. But it's a fine line, you upset people without meaning to.
Of course,
and
in any business, any product, not everybody's going to resonate
Yeah.
with your content, but it's knowing who you're trying to reach and what that audience is going to value, so that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one of the things we found with the acquisition of the AutoGPT newsletter, they were a little bit more technical than us. They had like quite a large amount of developers, and that's not really our bag, so we found quite a lot of churn when we brought those subscribers over. But the people we're really trying to target, and from sort of day one, the issue we tried to solve, is I think you've got like a bunch of people over here who love AI, they spend all of their time tinkering with AI tools, they probably know more about AI than us, and that's, those guys are sorted. And then you've got people over here who are terrified of AI, they hate the word.
Yeah.
If you mention it, they're going to leave the room.
AI fatigue is very real.
Yeah. And there's no point trying to reach those people because it's just going to be so difficult. But there's so many people in the middle, and I'm sure some of you here today are thinking like this. It's like you're excited by AI, but you're like a little bit worried about it, and there's a lot of noise, and you don't really know how to implement it. And that's really like the sweet spot that we're trying to find. We're not too technical. We talk about what's going on in the news that you need to know to be able to fit in conversations, but then also what are some takeaways you can actually go and use in your day-to-day life.
Yeah. So speaking about the content, I know I wanted to circle back with you, Matt, and ask about sending a 7-day. How many of you subscribe to a newsletter that goes out every single day? Clap if you do. See, yeah, not a lot. I only subscribe to maybe 1 or 2 that do that. And so I think it is a big competitive advantage, but it's risky because you're sending out something every single day, so people might get sick of you. But also for the people who love it, you're doing something really right. So how do you do that yourself? Because it's not a big team. Who's writing the newsletter? It's you and how many other people?
Just one other. So yeah, it's 2 of us. We pretty much work every day. We have it set so, Saturdays and Sundays, we only have to do a little bit of work. I'm looking to improve that in the future, so we actually have our weekends to ourselves.
Wow.
But yeah, it's a balancing act for sure.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. How do you balance maintaining that high editorial quality without burning yourself out?
It's very hard. What can I
Yeah.
say? That's just part of the commitment,
Yeah, I have to really give Matt credit. When we sat down to start Mindstream, I was looking at kind of successful daily newsletters before, and it is really a USP. If you can build that habit with your audience that, certain time of the day, they're going to get that email from Mindstream, they're just going to check it, what's going on in AI, to build that habit it was really important for how I saw the business evolving. And the other thing, we put, or before we were acquired by HubSpot, we would put 1 ad in every issue. And if you have 7 issues a week, you have 7 ad slots. If you're going to send 2 or 3 times a week, you've got 2 or 3 ad slots. So it was really important for us in our revenue model that it went out every day. And yeah, Matt mentioned we've got an amazing writer, Maria, who joined us in January. But between June and January, you wrote every single edition, 7 days a week, all by yourself, including many late-night drunken Mindstream writing sessions. Thankfully, no more.
You're just at the computer like, it has to go out tomorrow at 5 a.m. or whatever time you send it.
It's just pure commitment to
I mean,
to what we were
the thing is,
trying
I
to do.
think you can kind of get used to anything, and it's not like I spend 8 hours a day on it, right? I spend a couple of, 2-3 hours a day on it maybe. But what blows my mind is when I think back to when we were both still working full time.
Yeah.
I don't know how I did a 9 to 5 and then wrote the newsletter.
My God.
And again, you were doing a sales job and then you were selling ads and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. But when you want to make something happen, it's sort of, the way I justified it to my partner, who I didn't see for like 3 months when we were working the 2 jobs, is like, this is a sprint. I really believe in what we're trying to do, and we just got to go for it and work really hard. And then, after a couple of months, we were able to secure some investment and leave our jobs, and then we can really take it seriously. But it took that initial sprint to get over the line.
So we've talked about some of the really shiny aspects, and I kind of wanted to get into some of the not so shiny parts, like some of the roadblocks that you hit, because I think anytime you're starting any kind of entrepreneurial venture, there's going to be some really uncertain times, some days where you're like, this is not going to work. Maybe the day where that happened, you sent an email to people you weren't supposed to send an email to, and it's like, whoa, we've made a big mistake. So talk me through some of those early days or some of those uncertain days that happen in any stage of growing this, and how you kind of work through them. Because you had quit your job at some point, which is a big decision, and you're relying on this to fund your lives.
For sure.
Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest mistakes we made is when we started to grow and when we started to become serious. After we'd done the AutoGPT acquisition, we got a bit of investment over the line. We wanted to kind of expand our team to start operating at a higher level. And we made the mistake of trying to use freelancers and agencies, and we had like such a high turnover of employees, partners, however you might want to call it. In the space of like 2 months, we basically churned through everybody and made the decision that we need people who are really devoted to the cause. And like our sort of hiring or partnerships with agencies for that first 2 months was absolutely appalling. Not something either of us had done. We'd not hired or managed people before. And we learned very quickly that like the character of a person in this sort of early age startup is so much more important than the expertise. And then the way we hired after that is we just put out ads on LinkedIn, not even ads, just posts on LinkedIn saying, we're looking for like interesting people to come and work with us. No job description, not hiring for like a marketing executive or anything. And we managed to get some like really cool young people. We had like a 19-year-old guy from Pakistan. We had Maria, who joined the team and is now joining us at HubSpot from Lebanon. We had someone from Iran. And we just found these people who were sort of struggling to find jobs, maybe because of where they are or maybe because of the education they had, but they brought so much energy and so much dedication. And that was one of our sort of main sort of growth levers, really, hiring the right people who believed in the project and were willing to put in similar sort of level of effort that me and Matt were.
What do you think was the difference between the people that you were trying to hire before that you did hire and it didn't really work out versus these new people that came in? What was like the key differentiator there?
Yeah, so because we were partnering with agencies, like we partnered with a sales agency to try and increase our outbound. We partnered with like a design agency rather than hiring a designer. And like, you're just one of their clients, so they're not always going to be online when you need them. And when you're very early stage, everything needs to be done now. Like, I need this now to be done now.
All hands on deck at all times.
And these agencies we work with, I mean, we may have just picked the wrong ones, but they didn't feel really part of the team. It felt a very transactional relationship, and you have a transactional relationship over here with a design agency and a sales agency and like all these different people. Whereas when you can get like a small team together, like we had like 5 or 6 people by January, February, you can get everyone together, you can get them believe in the mission, you can have like, all company meetings, everybody starts to learn what everyone does and, get people really involved in the mission.
And like, we found, our kind of ideology was, if we treat them right, they'll treat us right. So even though these are mainly freelancers from, some of them third world countries, we gave them great holidays, we gave them time off, we paid them very well. We made sure to look after them.
So I'm curious if this hiring part or issue that you were having, this roadblock, was one of the turning points for your business. I'm curious what that looked like because, every entrepreneur is going to have like some really difficult times, and there's going to be a path where it like pushes you forward. And so would you say the hiring was that, or was there something else that really felt like a turning point for the business that launched you into a different kind of stratosphere?
Yeah, there's sort of a couple of chapters. I think the first one was us being able to leave our jobs. We just had time, which was something we didn't have. And the second one was when we secured a little bit of investment. It allowed us to sort of make a few decisions. The acquisition of AutoGPT put us into like a new sort of category, and it meant that these bigger companies with bigger advertising budgets, felt that they could have a conversation with us. And then the hiring one, it really allowed us to sort of get some real leverage. Having a team of people to help us create content and to help operationalize things. That really allowed me and Matt to sort of step back a little bit and start really working on the business rather than working in it. And that was a huge lever. It allowed us to make more strategic, long-term decisions.
So speaking of long-term decisions, I kind of want to fast forward to now with HubSpot. Was the goal always acquisition? Did you want to be bought out by another company? What was the long-term vision for Mindstream?
Yeah, it wasn't. Honestly, it wasn't.
Okay.
Media companies, they don't really have like great multiples. They can be very, very good cash flowing businesses. So the thing that we kind of discussed early on is we wanted to make a product that worked fundamentally. I think sometimes if you try and build to sell, you can maybe leave some skeletons in the closets or leave some holes here and there. So we were always kind of open to the idea of it if the right company came along, but it wasn't something we were planning for or searching for, certainly not in the first 18 months. And then, when HubSpot came along, it was just a no-brainer for us. With the acquisition they did of The Hustle a few years ago, they really took that product into like a new stratosphere. And then over the last 3 years, they've added, must be like nearly 100 media properties over the last 3 years. Like HubSpot really know what they're doing with media. So for us, it's an opportunity to really achieve our goals of where we want to take Mindstream and work with some of the greatest minds in media.
That's why I was going to ask, why HubSpot? Why not? Because I'm sure it wasn't the first offer that came to your desk. So why did it feel like this was the right one?
Yeah, we did have a couple of offers. What was critical for us was we wanted to kind of stay involved. Like, Mindstream is our baby. Mindstream is my baby. I don't want to sell my baby.
Yeah.
So, with this acquisition, I'm doing exactly the same job, which is great. Like, I'm still managing Mindstream, but now we kind of have HubSpot's resource and expertise behind us. You say the same, Adam?
And like opportunities to come to things like this, which is awesome.
Yeah, love that. Okay, so now that you've joined HubSpot, what can we expect of Mindstream now?
So we're not going to change the product drastically. For the first sort of 3 to 6 months of what we're trying to do with HubSpot is continue to provide that quality. The difference that you're going to get in the actual product, though, is it's not going to be full of ads for like external companies. HubSpot are going to be using it to try and improve their AI editorial offering. And we're going to be working with some of the cool people at HubSpot to add more value into the newsletter. I know that's something we've spoke about a lot,
Yeah.
Martina. For everyone who doesn't know, Martina has been running AI editorial for HubSpot for quite a long time, and you've got like such a great backlog of content that we're looking forward to kind of
Integrating.
putting into the newsletter. So yeah, a lot of the same, but hopefully a lot better.
Yeah, we're very excited. So my last question before we kind of share some AI tools, some of our favorite AI tools with you all, is what would you say, because we can't leave this conversation without talking about AI specifically, what would you say is the most overrated and underrated thing about AI right now?
That's a good question. Do you want to go first, Matt?
I can go first, actually.
Yeah, you go first.
I think one of the most overrated things is that AI is going to take over and take your jobs, because I think we've seen time and time again, AI can hallucinate, AI can lie, and it's great as an assistant, but the idea that it's going to be able to do everything, I think is an oversell. And I think for anybody who uses any like AI chatbot notices that there are mistakes, and you often have to iterate on what it produces, which is often like a rough draft of something, but before you get to that final product for it to be quality, there's a big gap there, but it just assists really well.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably, for me, one of the biggest overrated claims about AI.
Yeah, I mean, me and Adam were inbound, and we saw Dharmesh's talk, and what he said is kind of AI makes humans better, and I think that's kind of our approach to it. Like, it's a tool to like improve yourself. It's not to replace you, and I think people aren't really understanding that potential of what it can unlock.
Yeah, I think part of the problem with the sort of media or social media space around AI is that a lot of creators have gotten into it, really adding to this hype, and like a lot of sort of content that you'll see around AI is like, if you use this tool, it's going to replace this thing, and like AI isn't here to replace workflows, maybe some of them, the sort of smaller workflows, but really AI can be like a really powerful assistant that you can use to leverage your time a little bit better, to take away some of the small tasks in your workflow. So to talk about the underrated thing, I think the underrated thing is really taking AI and using it as like a second brain, an assistant, and using it to kind of propel your work forward.
Yeah. Great. Okay. So now, first, let's give a round of applause to them for sharing their story. But we're not done yet. We're going to share some of our favorite AI tools. Adam, take it away.
Yeah, so we're all going to talk through some of our favorite AI tools, and these are tools that we believe are kind of really breaking through the hype and actually just giving you a thing that you can do that works and is simple. So I'm going to start off talking about two tools, Guide and Taplio. So first up, Guide is a very simple to use video creation tool. I often compare it to Loom in its use cases. I'm sure everybody here has either created a Loom video or have viewed a Loom video. And the use cases you'd use this for is like internally, maybe some company onboarding, sharing of processes. Externally, you might use it for kind of sales enablement or customer support. And Guide does a similar thing, but in a different way. So what it does, in just a few seconds, you can create how-to videos. I love it because it's an incredibly easy to use tool with like a really short learning curve to adopt, and it has a very familiar user experience. So what I've got up here is just a couple of pictures of the process of creating a how-to video with Guide. You simply click capture on the Chrome extension, select an option from the drop-down box, and then you just type in the process you're going to create. And then when you click go, what Loom is going to give you is it's going to record your screen, record your voice, and you kind of like plod along showing your process. What Guide is doing is it's using AI to track your clicks, track your mouse movement, and track your typing. And then when you click done, it pulls it into this like really dynamic looking editor, which feels quite familiar to like PowerPoint or Canva that you might use. And these slides you see along the bottom, they are each of the steps that the AI has picked up that you have created. You probably can't read it, but it's got select the date, select the time, click next, click name. So it's showing the various steps you're doing, and it's the AI has created those steps. It's going to put like boxes and arrows to it, and all of this is editable. And then also it will create an AI voiceover for you. So you don't even have to speak into Guide. It creates all of that for you, can translate it into any language you want, and then when you export it, you can export it as this video, you can export it as a Word document, you can export it as a PowerPoint, so that whoever you're sending this to can use the content in the format that they like to consume it. So that's Guide. We've been using Guide for about a year at Mindstream for our onboarding, and I highly recommend it. Okay, so moving on, I'm going to talk about Taplio. So I mentioned very briefly earlier on that we have used LinkedIn as a big leverage for Mindstream. We post daily on both of our LinkedIn accounts, and we sort of put out content there and use it to generate subscribers for Mindstream. And Taplio is just like a very, very powerful AI sort of LinkedIn management tool that's really tailored towards creators. I love it because it has features for every aspect of LinkedIn growth. And when you might use Taplio, I think if you're getting started on your LinkedIn journey as a creator, that's the best time to use it, because looking at all the features and tools inside Taplio is almost going to instruct you on what you should be focusing when you're creating content on LinkedIn. So what I've done here is I've put up a screen grab of the impressions we've received on my account over the last year, mostly to flex, but also just to show you guys how powerful LinkedIn can be. So just shy of 27 million impressions. And this has been integral for us getting subscribers, getting leads for advertisement. We actually do sponsor posts on LinkedIn as well, so we used to have a bunch of brand partnerships there. And I want to quickly run through 5 features. So number 1, analytics. LinkedIn isn't a creator tool. It's not a tool that's made for creators, so their analytics are rubbish. In Taplio, you have like really dynamic analytics that can be filtered by types of posts, when you've posted them, highest performing, so you can see a lot more information in there. Number 2 is content creation. I'm sure everybody here has used an LLM like ChatGPT to try and create copy before. And like you can get some really good results, but you have to put a lot of prompting in to kind of instruct on what you're trying to do. Taplio has this kind of like embedded in already. When you go to create a LinkedIn post, it knows kind of the format you should be going for. And then also in the UX, you have like a load of buttons and sort of extra like prompts it's kind of giving you to help improve your content. So it's much better for creating LinkedIn copy. Also, carousels. If you're scrolling through LinkedIn, you're going to see so many carousels. And Taplio has just dropped an AI carousel generator, which cuts down the content creation time massively from doing it in like Canva or something. Repurposing. We put out 28 LinkedIn posts on both of our accounts every week. There's no way we could generate that much original, high-quality content. And we have like 100 to 150 posts that we're just kind of recycling through and adding new things. And in Taplio, with just like one click, you can regenerate one of your old posts, and it's going to change the copy up slightly, so you can get it out there, and it has like a different feel to it. Wow. And number 5, I've called this feature stalking. That's not an official name of a feature.
I saw that. I was like, oh.
Yeah. So when you're trying to do anything well, one of the best ways to get started is study what other people are doing. And in the LinkedIn creator game, within Taplio, in your dashboard, it will show you like the best posts in your niche of that day, and you can create lists and sort of follow these different creators, filter their posts by their best performing. And that repurposing feature I mentioned, you can actually do that with other people's posts as well. So in just like one click, you can generate and like copy someone's framework, or maybe I should say take inspiration from their framework or their content type. So yeah, love that feature as well. There's so much more to Taplio, but I'm just going to run through some of the features there. So yeah, that's Taplio, highly recommend. And I'll hand over to Matt.
That's great, because competitive research is key. You
Yeah,
know, why like restart it? If somebody else has done something, you can take inspiration to do it yourself. If it's very successful.
Yeah, it's a great feature.
Yeah, so I thought I'd kind of focus my tools on tools that we actually use to create our newsletter. So that's going to be Midjourney and Hemingway. So yeah, we'll get started with Midjourney. So quite simply, Midjourney is an AI image generator. You may have heard of it. If you are doing any kind of image generation, you need to be using Midjourney. You may have used ChatGPT to generate images before. I know like with the kind of free tier, you can get it to spit a few images out, but like nothing compares to Midjourney. I like to describe it as stock images on steroids. So whenever you need any kind of stock imagery or some kind of graphic, just turn to Midjourney.
Yeah.
Stock images, you know, they're limited to photography. With Midjourney, you can kind of make anything. So I just pulled up 4 examples here. So we have a kind of prompting framework that every day we plug in our kind of article titles into. So it's kind of like pixel art with a color theme that you can see there. And those 4 images have all gone out to our 150,000 readership. You know, this is how we generate 2 images per day for our blogs, our articles in the newsletter even. It's just an incredibly powerful tool. That's not the best use of Midjourney because, you know, it's obviously pretty boring. So I thought I'd just pull up some incredible images here. So all of these images are pure AI. You know, it's just someone who's typed in some text, and this is the output. So we've got like portrait style, kind of cartoons, kind of surrealism, like anything you can imagine, you can make with Midjourney. So if you have kind of any interest in AI art or kind of graphic design, I just highly recommend you give Midjourney a go.
Do you have any quick like Midjourney tips for prompting? Like maybe one thing that you use that helps every time to get a good result?
Yeah, so mention a camera. So like, I don't know if you're into photography, but if you just put like Sony A50 into the prompts, you know, like a high spec camera, you'll get kind of better results. So that's
helps
a kind
to
of
get like hyper realism, doesn't it? If you put the camera in.
Yeah. That's a quick one for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then my kind of second tool is Hemingway. Hemingway is really simple. It's a kind of proofreading tool. It's just a website. You can go on there, you paste in your content, and you'll get kind of instant visual feedback. So whenever you're writing anything important, you know, we're writing a newsletter, if you're writing a blog or like an email to your boss or something that you just want to make sure is perfect, run it through Hemingway. So Hemingway has kind of 5 really simple visual feedback. So anything in yellow just means it's too long. You need to shorten your sentence. You want to keep the kind of reading age as low as possible so it's more accessible. Red means too complicated, so you're probably using kind of big words where you don't need to. A purple word means there is a shorter word available, so maybe you're trying to be too complicated there. Blue is an adverb, so you should try and avoid using adverbs. An adverb is kind of where you use an adjective to make a verb more powerful. So for example, you'd say, oh, she ran quickly. Well, you should say she sprinted instead. Kind of the English language has a lot of powerful verbs in there, so you should try and lean on verbs as much as you can and avoid using adverbs. And then finally, anything in green is just passive voice, so you typically want to avoid using that. So yeah, that's Hemingway. Anytime you're writing anything important, I like to run it through Hemingway.
I've used Hemingway, and there's nothing worse as a writer when you go on there, you put your text, you think you've done a great job, and then there's so many things in red. It's a horrible feeling, but it does make your work a lot better. So I'm happy you mentioned it.
Awesome. And now, Martina, I think you're going to
Yes.
talk us through your top tool.
Okay, so mine is Perplexity. How many people have heard of Perplexity or use it? Clap your hands if you do. Okay. Yeah, so I love Perplexity. I think it's a writer's best friend. I use it all the time, and sometimes I prefer it over Google, and I'll explain why. But Perplexity is an AI-powered search engine. Let me see. Yes, okay. So it's an AI-powered search engine. It has access to real-time news, of course, so that's essential. What I love is you can ask it questions using natural language, and it also gives you follow-ups. The best thing about it is the fact that it gives you citations, because like I mentioned before, we can't trust AI. We can't believe what it says all the time. We need citations. We need to know exactly where you got it from. And so it can cite sources from YouTube, from Yelp, from Reddit. And so I know any information that it's giving me, I can validate it, and I can deep dive after with the follow-ups. And the next thing that I love, if it's free to use and you don't have to create an account. So it's similar to Google in that way. And I think sometimes we're so inundated with so many accounts that we have, and you just want to be able to go, use something, and go. So that's the reason why well, that's what it does, actually. And the reason why I love it is it helps me get the exact answer that I'm looking for. Sometimes I have a complex question, but I need a very simple answer. And sometimes when I go on Google, I have a question that I'm trying to get answered, and then I get so many pages. So then I end up having to open 5,000 tabs to get a very simple answer. And so that can get really overwhelming, and sometimes I'm like, I need a nap after this. I don't even have the information that I want. And so Perplexity just breaks it down in a very simple way, in a way that's digestible, and saves me a lot of time. I can use it to gut check something. I can use it to ask, well, I'm gonna show an example in a second, but I think the best time to use it is when you need quick answers to very complex questions. So here's an example of what it looks like in comparison to Google. So I asked both Perplexity and Google a simple question, which was, is there a universal federal law on AI in the US? And on the left, you have Google's answer, which is fair. It's good. It's simple, right? It shows me an article there, and it says, in the absence of comprehensive federal legislation on AI. So that tells me, hey, there's no federal law there, and it gives me the answer. But I like what Perplexity did better. It told me in very clear terms there is currently no universal federal law. And what I liked is it broke it down what they're doing at the state level in the US and what they're doing at the federal level. So now I have actually much more information, and if I want to dive deeper into that, I can. So yeah, Perplexity just takes it a little bit further, and to get that same answer from Google, I'd have to open a couple extra tabs, go through a couple extra paragraphs of text to get the same answer. And so it's not to say that Google's not in my tech stack anymore, that I'm replacing it, but sometimes Perplexity is going to give me a better answer quickly than what Google is going to be offering. So it's just another thing that I can add to my tech stack, another tool that I can rely on when I'm doing research. So yeah, that's all we have for you today. We're going to open it up to Q&A, but please give a round of applause to Adam and Matt for sharing.
Thank you. I'm going to start the round of questions because I've got a question myself. You've mentioned Midjourney for image creation. We've also heard that video is the future of content creation. So is there any app that allows us to create with a prompt some videos and not just images?
Yes, I think the question is about video generation. So the kind of big tool there is called Runway. And what Runway can do is turn a still image into a video, which is pretty crazy to see. In terms of like pure text to video, that's kind of a new field. We've got OpenAI has Sora, but that's kind of behind closed doors at the moment. They're only letting a few people use it. I think Meta's just launching one as well. So the big like Hollywood tools are still kind of behind closed doors for now, but hopefully.
There's also Pika Labs. It's either
Yes,
Pika Labs or Pika Labs. I recommend testing out a few of them because each one has their pros and cons. So Pika Labs is one I've heard of. Yeah, open source.
I think it's going to be the next big thing for 2025.
Definitely
AI
video
is going to be huge.
Thank you for your question. Anybody else?
Hi, so you mentioned about your newsletter and finding out that certain spam words were affecting your deliverability. Is there any tools to actually find out what are your spam words, or was it just a very manual process?
Yeah, there is a tool we use. It's called, the website's called experte.com, and on there it has like a cyclable email address, and you can send a test email there, and it will give you like all the feedback you need. So that's kind of our first port of call. And then we also use you can just kind of Google like spam word checker, and then that's more one where you would copy and paste your text in, and it would highlight spam words to you. So it's kind of a combination of those, but it is also it's not always certain. You know, you can't say for sure whether it's going to go to spam or not, which is kind of a big problem.
Right.
Yeah, it's not an exact science yet, and these tools we're using are kind of, I say, like a bit jinky tools. They're not like properly wrapped tools or anything like that. There's not an exact science to it, and it is a grey area, and it's something we've battled with for a long time.
Yeah.
But I think just trying to educate yourself as much as possible and have a few tools that you can kind of use, you'll start to learn the words you sort of should try and exclude from your emails.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. We're going to be hanging around for a little bit if you have any additional questions, but we're at time. Thank you again for joining us. It was a pleasure.
Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much,
everybody.
everyone.
Cheers.